Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We'll begin in just 2 minutes. May I request all of you to please turn your mobile phones on silent or switch them off. We put up the Wi-Fi password, so I hope you all have access. And if you're tweeting, please use the hashtag Innovate number for Digital India in your tweets. The government's bold Digital India vision aims to empower citizens with technology for universal access to education, governance, financial inclusion, healthcare, amongst other things. We're very proud to be here today on this wonderful morning where we're talking to our top 20 teams of the Innovate for Digital India Challenge that Intel and DST launched with support from MyGov, DATI, and the program is being anchored by CII IIM Ahmedabad. This challenge seeks to combine Intel's history of innovation and technology with the immense entrepreneurial talent that all of you have, the government's bold Digital India vision, to really come up with solutions that will help us realize this vision and boost your spirit of entrepreneurship. We're here in Pune, which is the poster child for technology and innovation, and CDAC is really the superhero when it comes to supercomputing, to high-performance computing, to technology innovation made in India. And who better to kick this event off than Professor Rakesh Muna? He's the Director General of CDAC. In December 2013, he was awarded the prestigious Vasvik Award for his contributions in the advancement of ICT. Very recently, he's been awarded the AISA Technovation 2014 Award for being a techno-visionary in the academia category. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Professor Mona.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. Now, friends from DIT, Gaurav Dwivedi, friends from Intel, Debjani, Sitaram, Srinivas, I mean, all of you here who are actually the top 20 proud entrepreneur, I should say. Well, I don't really want to call you entrepreneur because entrepreneur is a word which has been really misused in a plentiful ways. I would actually like to call you 20 pride of India, 20, people who can actually bring a major technological innovation, and because I was looking at some of these ideas that has come out, and I'm very eager to look at that, and I'm told that in next few days I can come and see and meet some of you personally right here next door. And I would love to do that. If you look at the focus that the current government is doing on Digital India, right? We saw in July a major launch of an event called Digital India. A wonderful launch because several innovative products, innovative ideas were launched at that point in time to say how India can shape up in digital form. Now, recently, Prime Minister's visit to US, many of you would have witnessed this. The greatest champions of digital world of today were there, okay, and they appreciated the effort that this government and this country is putting in digitizing and in making technical India, India where the technology will rule, the technology will bring things. And I think I feel very good about it. Why? Because it has been always my passion to see the technology right from the beginning. So some of these ideas that actually have been originating in this country are very clear that they are going to be the future in the system, in the place, in the world. So let's see, in what happened in India. If you look at right from the day we got independence in the decade of 50s, then decade of 60s, 70s, 80s, and from that point to now. If you look at the decade of 50s and 60s, that was a time when major massive infrastructures were created in terms of institutions. PSUs, public sector units, came up. Great institutions like IITs were set up, IIMs were set up, and it was an investment and a right kind of investment at that point in time. Today we may actually say, some of these might not be the right thing, might not be the correct thing. But if you look at this was a right investment in that environment, because a country at that point in time was passing through a major social stigma of we being inferior to the rest of the world. Right? We being inferior because we have just came out of somebody's subservience to our own existence, our own standing. And that was a kind of an era, if you actually just go by, where you felt proud about you being independent of your own, but you really did not have strength to say that I can stand up and do a better job than anybody else. At that point in time, a great confidence was given by setting up units like IITs, units like PSUs, units like IIM, and it was a great infrastructural, or I would say knowledge infrastructural setup that was done. Subsequently, in the era of 60s, you look at what happened. Everybody coming out of these great institutions actually gave shape to this country. First, in the form of, joining up PSUs. In those days, in 60s, almost every PSU was full with people from IITs, NITs, and these kind of places. If you look at the era after that, in 80s, so this was 70s, 60s, 70s, 70s, 80s, what happened? In that decade, suddenly people realized that there is a world outside which is eager to, welcome you. And people actually went out for higher education. A lot of people actually went out for higher education. A lot of people went out because there were better opportunities available there. And many of them stayed back. Right? Today we are actually seeing what Prime Minister Modi talked about. Very interesting thing. It is not a brain drain. It is not a brain gain. It is my brain bank. It's a brain repository that we created there. And this is actually because of that era where a lot of people actually went out and they became into that situation where they could actually take decisions now. They could actually, and unlike many of the migrations which happened world over, this migration was a happy migration, right? Most of the time, like for example, look at what is happening in Syria today. People are migrating because they are unhappy being in there. Okay, you look at the migration, for example, in several countries. People were migrating because they were not happy being there. People migrated from here not because they were unhappy, but they migrated, and all along in the history of India, that has been the case. People migrated because they were seeking a better opportunity for themselves and for their own country fellows. Right? Everybody who went out maintained a very, very strong link with their families, with their institutions, with their friends, supported them, whether it was in terms of money, whether it was in terms of ideas, whether it was in terms of anything else. There was a huge, huge support that was available. And then we look at what happens to people afterwards. Okay, post-80s, suddenly a new world opened up. In 90s, our economy started opening up. Many industries started setting up. Many multinational companies actually started coming up, bringing opportunities which were not available in this country from outside to this place. And a lot of people actually started joining those organizations right from here. Okay, that was also the time when we actually were doing a little bit of manufacturing, we started doing manufacturing of PCBs, motherboards, PC motherboards, HCL came, Zenith came, all these kind of companies came. A lot of manufacturing started happening. In the decade of post-90s, people started moving from MNCs to financial institutions, right? Because the opportunities were better. From financial institutions to today, if you look at, of course, from MNCs, first it was going into the government, IAS, and in fact, today we look at the most senior officers are some of those graduates of IITs and NITs and BITS and all that, then to MNCs and then to financial institutions. And I see a very, very strong trend which is emerging today. Many of you would have seen this. In fact, many of you are of that category, of that community, where people from premium institutions, they actually are now taking up a job, leaving their job almost immediately and doing their own startup of their own ideas. I think this is the golden opportunity. This is the golden era for what we can do, what we should be doing, and how we can do. It's the innovation that we are talking about. And innovation is the key mantra today for getting into this. I'm very happy to hear these 20 groups who have actually decided to do a real kind of innovation. And this is not really an innovation in terms of, there have been innovation that people have done. You go and buy, mobile phones from China in a knockdown condition, assemble it, package it here and sell it at twice the cost. That is also an innovation in some sense, right? It's an innovation of business process or whatever. But this is the innovation that you guys are doing, is a technological innovation. And this is an innovation that I think is what we call as, the God for us in terms of technology. So you are one of those who actually are going a right way. So why innovation is needed and why innovation should be done, I think there is no doubt about that. Okay. And should that innovation be done in India or elsewhere? I think again, I'll talk about little bit of this thing. Our forefathers, my father, for example, they belong to that era when they just bought the independence. Very low confidence in the population. I belong to an era where we always thought a person coming from the Western world is much superior. And we always had, a complex, inferiority complex while talking to them, saying, okay, if they are saying something, they are saying with authority. I think today you belong to an era where you are the authority. You actually go and talk to, and in fact, I am very happy to see the generation now which can actually have that confidence that we can change the world. Right? You can actually go and talk to anybody, and you are not ashamed of saying somebody how high or how good he is in terms of position, saying that you are wrong, and you are wrong. And you can actually say this is a confidence that our society, our young generation is actually imbibing. And I think this is the reason, this is one of the reasons why we are very, very confident of our population. And the future, we are very sure that the future is in the safe hand. Now, if that is the case, then if you are confident, you are educated, okay, what is the next thing that is actually an indicator? And I was looking at these ideas that people have come up with. I felt very good about it. Now, I'll tell you why I felt good about it. You go around on the road. Almost all of these things that we talked about here are actually saying we go around in our environment, we go around on the road, we go around in our cities, we look at people, we look at the problems around us, and almost everything that we are talking about is a solution to problems which are existing around us. I think the third mantra of innovation, we have already imbibed. Nobody taught you that. Nobody said that you should do this, but you already did it. And that's the third success indicator for any innovation. So 3 things. Confidence, we already have confidence. You are on the right side of the age, right you can actually take risk. You don't worry about the risk factors and the failures. Failures are part and parcel of innovation. You fail one, you do the other thing. You fail second, you do the third thing. Success is going to be part of it at some point in time. Okay, it may come early to someone, it may come little later to someone, but success is never far from you. Okay, so right side of which risk factor, confidence, and the problems that you see around. Everything is available in terms of innovation. Now, the enabling factor of innovation, and I'm very happy again that departments like DST, Department of Science and Technology, Intel actually join hand. Right kind of environment is being created, DIT, right kind of environment is being created to actually innovate. There is huge amount of focus from the government. Money is available for nurturing new ideas. Funding is available. Mentorship is available. And therefore, we are on the right track. Now, let's see what happens from here. The minister actually is talking about, and rightly so, of Make in India program. What is Make in India about? Make in India is not about saying that we have something with us which we want to grow and give it out to somebody. Of course, that could be one. But Make in India is one interesting ingredient in this, saying you can actually bring anything. And Indians have been always very good designers, not here, maybe outside. Most of these technology, whether you talk of, Vinod Dham's Pentium project, or you talk, almost any signature that you look at in major products that we see, there is an Indian footprint there. So, designing part was already there. But you look at any manufacturing, take out your mobile phones and see at the back of it, it will either say made in China or made in Indonesia or made in Taiwan or something like that, right? Now, these are all our neighbors. So why is, and we are representing almost close to about 15% of the world population. So why is it that, others are doing it and we are not able to do it? 15% is a huge number. So why is that we were not able to do this? And at the same time, you can't actually have 15% people going hungry every night, right? Because there are no jobs. So Make in India is to actually bring jobs in a country. Make in India is about letting people, empowering them so that they can actually do the manufacturing. There is a job available, there are ideas available, okay? And therefore, from this point onward, ideas can actually be taken into this. Now, the second part of this, a very important thing, Make in India is going to be unsuccessful if we don't have a design in India. So design in India is a very, very important thing, because otherwise you start doing manufacturing of soldering, this and that, and not going anywhere. Design in India. And to that extent, a new design which India can give out to the world is the next key. And that is actually going to happen. Third important parameter is how do we do design and how do we do Make in India? It has to be eventually by people of India, right? And the youngest population in the world, if at all exists, youngest innovative population of the world, actually if at all exists, is in this country. Many of you probably would have seen in other places, would have interacted with others. The kind of innovation that we do, often it is called jugaad. Jugaad is not the probably right word. Okay, but the kind of innovation, kind of innovative thinking that people actually carry is enormous. It's just that we bring in a notion of quality and suddenly it becomes much better world, much better product, much better thinking. And that is, I think, we are looking for. So, from Make in India, Design in India, I think we want to stand up and we want to say we are pride of India. And I think with that in mind, with that in our back of our thinking, I congratulate all of you who have actually come to this far for innovation, for Innovate for Digital India. And I think my wishes are with you that in future you will do much better. You will do much more innovation. I'm eagerly looking for meeting you guys at some point in time. Maybe in next 2-3 days. Come by into your place and look at your things that you'll be doing, maybe interact with you. Some of these products are actually so much to my heart because we have implemented some of these technologies in CDAC. And therefore, if we can actually do something where we can actually be of help to you, I think it will be our endeavor to help you. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations to all of you. Fantastic day. You get Professor Muna as a mentor. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming the two people who've been helping us and boarding us along and making sure that Innovate for Digital India goes the right way. We had also invited Mr. Mittal from DST. Unfortunately, he's abroad and traveling, but he has sent you a message that we'll play at the end. But ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Debjani Ghosh, the Vice President, SMG Group and Managing Director for Intel South Asia, and Mr. Gaurav Dwivedi, CEO, MyGov India. Thinking everywhere to start. Debjani, if we can request you to start and say a few words to the top 20, followed by Gaurav, sir. And
why don't you have Gaurav go first?
Okay,
We'll have
sir go first.
Please.
How long Good afternoon. It's just turned afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here among all of you today. And there's this a very happy occasion today because ever since we started with this discussion about organizing the Innovate for Digital India initiative with DST, with Intel, with CIIE working together, I think we started talking sometime in March, if I remember, late February, early March, late February or so. And I think it took us about maybe month and a half to just stitch all the pieces together and to get this program going. And to be very frank, at that point of time, the only thing that I was a little chary about was what is the kind of response we're going to be getting. And although we keep talking about innovation, we keep talking about entrepreneurship, but it's always somebody else who's doing it. And this was the first time that MyGov itself came into the game and presented itself as a platform which DST, which CIIE and Intel coming together could use to promote this idea of entrepreneurship and actually handhold and mentor some ideas, as they call it, right from the mind to the market. And I was extremely happy to see the kind of responses we got. As you're all aware, we got about 1,900 responses and 1913 responses that we got. I would have been happy with 500. And for the first few days, while all of you and others like you were getting your ideas together and writing the documents and working your way through the forms, experiencing some difficulties in filling up the forms, which you pointed out, and then we rectified those as well. So for the first few days when we were doing maybe 5, 10, 15 new submissions a day, just, okay, got your fingers crossed. Let's reach a few hundred at least. And then suddenly it ramped up. I mean, most of you might be engineers, I'm not. But it ramped up exponentially. And 500, 600, 700, 150, 200 submissions coming in a day. It was a very, very heartening sign. And I think the faith that we had, and probably the faith that the PM himself has in this whole idea of innovating for India, in making in India, and making India into a digital India. I think that faith was fully borne out by the kind of response that we got for this program. Since I'm here, as in my capacity as working for MyGov, so MyGov in itself is also a fairly innovative idea. All of you have been to MyGov, because if you hadn't gone to MyGov, you wouldn't have submitted your applications anyway. But if you look at MyGov also, it's essentially an attempt to bring together ideas from all over the country. Why do we want to get all these ideas together? The reason is that it's not enough that once in 5 years you go there and vote and have that ink sign on your fingernail and say that, okay, my responsibility is complete. No, it's not. It's a far bigger responsibility that we have in these days and times, with social media, with technology, with much more openness in the system than has ever existed before. And what we're trying to do here is to bring together these thoughts, these ideas from everybody across the country, so that we can use those ideas, we can leverage those ideas, we can share those ideas within the government with our other ministries, our fellow ministries and departments in the government of India, so that whatever people think needs to be done can be brought out, can be identified, and then we can work together on it and start implementing some of those thoughts. I'll just give you one of the very recent examples, and this is an example that the PM himself has quoted, I think 3 months back in his radio address, Man Ki Baat. I think many of you would have heard the radio address that he does every month. This gentleman who's physically challenged, and he was trying to book a railway ticket, and he tried to get the concession which is available to physically challenged people when they buy a railway ticket. And the railway site is, I think, one of the most well-designed and user-friendly sites that we have, providing services to literally millions of people every day. For some reason, he navigated all over the site and found that you could get a senior citizen concession or some other kinds of concessions when you book your tickets, but you couldn't get that concession on the site if you were a physically challenged person. We pointed it out. There was a railway discussion going on MyGov at that point of time, and we passed it on to the railways. Now, I'm sure nobody really wanted to exclude this feature from the website. So for whatever reason it happened, it was an oversight. But immediately after it was pointed out, it was worked upon. And I think in just about 3 to 4 weeks, Railway turned around and this feature is now available. And it's not benefiting only this one gentleman. How many times would he travel anyway? I mean, maybe a couple of times a month. But it's something which is benefiting hundreds and thousands of people across the country who might be physically challenged and trying to get that benefit when they travel by rail. So this is just a very small example, but it buttresses our argument that if the citizens, if the ministries, if all of the engaged parties work together, there is a big difference that can be made. And this entire initiative of Innovate for Digital India is a step in that direction. When you were filling up your applications, you would have seen that the 2 categories that we have listed out there are actually fairly wide in themselves. They are not, very, very narrow categories. So within those categories, we found people who want to work in healthcare or education or agriculture or tourism. We literally got thousands of responses. And within those, it was a fairly tough call to shortlist the first 50 and then pare that list down to 20. And for the last few weeks, you've been here, you've been getting trained, mentored, handheld. And I'm sure that the thoughts that you have, you will find a way to move ahead and actually convert them into marketable ideas. For those of you who do not make the next step anyway, it's not the end of the road. As Professor Muna just said, that is just probably a learning opportunity. And from that learning opportunity, you just dust it off and then make the effort again. But that's still further ahead in the future. As far as today is concerned, I'm very happy to be here with all of you. And I think later in the day, we'll get an opportunity to interact more intensively with each other. We'll have a question answer round, and then further discussions will go on through the day. And I extend a very, very heartfelt best wishes to all of you, to all the participants from MyGov, from the Department of Electronics and IT. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Debjani, if we could have a few words from you,
Sure.
and then we'll take questions.
Sorry, I'm gonna sit. I've managed to do something to my foot. This morning I spent around an hour and a half with the top 20, as Professor Muna called them, the pride of India. And I absolutely agree, because it was one of the best 1.5 hours I've spent in a very, very, very long time. I was surrounded with passion, curiosity, people applying their minds, and people who are willing to take risks at pretty young ages. It is, I can't tell you how refreshing that is. Every project I saw was based on a real life problem. And I think if I'm summarizing it here, so apologies if I miss out one or two, but I'd say projects, where they were looking at agriculture, education, healthcare, preventive healthcare, which is so needed in our country, citizen services, financial services, education, of course, as I said, and they are looking at what I call the real Indian users, who are not sitting in urban cities, and they are going to be the users of tomorrow. And it was brilliant to see them starting to think through things like literacy challenges, bandwidth challenges, connectivity challenges, right? And build solutions which are very real, and I think which are gonna be extremely useful. So it's not easy. It's not easy to innovate within all these limitations. What if someone doesn't have connectivity? What if someone can't read and write? What if someone cannot understand the language I'm communicating in? I mean, you guys are the amount of limitations you all have had to deal with. Hats off to you all for coming up with ideas even within all those limitations. Hats off to you, seriously. So it was just absolutely brilliant, and the discussions, the energy, the passion with which you present. Please do not lose that. Whatever happens, whatever the results are, results seriously does not matter. And I know it sounds cliched, but what you have, you have to figure out a way to take this forward in life. A secret is I actually shared Gaurav's concern quite a bit, because when we were thinking of what to do in this area, because the whole Digital India concept touched a chord even before the elections, actually, because we used to work with Mr. Modi very closely when he was Chief Minister in Gujarat. And at that point, he was one of the most progressive chief ministers, and he used to do a lot in that state. And Intel was working with him, partnering with him at various levels. And he had more time then, so we used to sit and have a lot of conversations on what we need to do and how technology can play a role in development. It was just amazing listening to him, and the kind of thinking he had in mind, and the way he used to see what technology can do. And I used to actually learn from that. I used to seriously learn from that. The kind of, the way he would relate technology back to grassroots level usage, to grassroots level problems, was completely amazing. So at that point, it was more of digital Gujarat, but I think the broad Digital India concept was based on that. And it had touched a deep chord, because we were working very closely with him in Gujarat to make it happen. And then it was all about how do we scale this nationally. And as we were thinking and sitting about it, how do we scale this nationally? The one thing I knew is this cannot be scaled without innovation in the country, because no disrespect meant, I love the company I work for. I love the what companies like Intel, Google, and all the others are doing in India, but you need localized, and you need people with their pulse on the real issues in India, to start thinking about what are the solutions. You guys will do a much better job of thinking about what are the real solutions than any of us will. What is needed is that partnership, where we can work with you and bring to you the best technologies, the best know-how, so that you are able to create world-class solutions, cost-effective solutions, and you are able to scale your solutions. So what India really needs now is not an either-or situation, it needs an and situation, where the global technology companies come in and join hands with the makers, with the entrepreneurs, and we create an ecosystem of innovation, of make in India, manufacturing in India, and scale in India. It's going to be critical. So the entire challenge started off to address that problem. How do we create that ecosystem? It wasn't about the top 3 winners. Yes, of course, there'll be top 3 winners, but it was about creating an ecosystem. And that's where the partnership with MyGov was critical, Gaurav, because if you remember, we kept talking about it can't stop with the results. This has to continue. It has to continue. The dialogue, the discussions, what you guys are benefiting from right now is the 20 of you are, or 20 teams working together, collaborating with each other. That has to continue, right? So when we were launching this, even I was very worried, because I'd heard from everyone that in India, you get excellent ideas. People will come up with brilliant ideas. But you guys are not awarding ideas. Maybe you should change your challenge and just award the best ideas. What you're now expecting them to work for 6 months and create products. That doesn't happen. We don't do things like that, right? And I was dead against it. I said, no, I'm not going to award ideas. We have enough ideas in India. We need some real solutions now. So it's going to be about idea to product, right? Otherwise, it's not going to be anything. What I saw today was thank you, because I think you all have proved everyone wrong. You all have proved that we are highly capable of taking our ideas and turning into real solutions, into real products. And here I have to give a heartfelt thanks to the CIIE team, Venetian team. I mean, this would not have been possible. And I think you know it. This would just not have been possible without what your entire team has done. So thank you. And we are looking forward to continuing to work with you to see how we can scale this. But the kind of transformation even they have gone through in just 2-3 months that they, or whatever time they have spent, it is amazing. And also a huge thanks to all the advisors, mentors. I remember when we started this, I'd called up N. Chandra of TCS and said, we're thinking of doing this. Can TCS help? And he put his hand up first and said, yes, we will. We will be there, and we are going to ensure our engineers are going to work on this, right? And I think there's so many people. Aruna, Kabjat, Granthi, I think she came and met you, or she talked to you all. So many people from the industry. I didn't even have to ask twice. I just had to say, hey, we're doing this. Want to help? Want to join? Pretty much everyone I asked has said, yes, we will. So fantastic to see how everyone has come together. Can't wait for Intel Innovate Challenge, or it shouldn't be just Intel. I was just saying, Gaurav, we now need to think bigger and make this an industry Innovate Challenge and 2.0. And congratulations to all of you. You're fantastic stuff. Can't wait to see these products in the market. Thank you.
Professor Muna, may we request you to join us on stage, please? We'll take a few questions from our top 20 teams first. If someone can run the mics, we already have a hand up.
Hello. Yeah, so my question is to Professor Muna. So actually, I was an intern at CDAC, NISG Group, a few months ago, and there I learned about IoT. So after that, this is my startup after that. So I am collaborating with Darbari sir on my product.
I'm very happy to hear this.
So should we see some other collaborations as well?
Okay. Now I think This is a question for which clearly there cannot be a ready-made answer. Collaborations are the key. You have to have the collaborations for the effective, progression, right? But at the same time, you must have the right kind of collaborations. If you have 20 collaborations and out of which only one collaboration is right, then 19 collaborations are actually going to take up or eat up your bandwidth. And at this point in time, during the startup, you can't afford to kill your bandwidth. Okay? But at the same time, if you have only one collaboration and you're missing out on two right collaborations, you are actually probably not going to have success. So the real thing is, should I have more or should I have less? No, there is no answer to that. But you must have right collaborations and right kind of collaborations.
If I can just add to that, Prof, I think it's important for each of you, and we talked about this in some of the discussions, to also do a little bit of a core strength analysis. Because there's some things you will be very good at. You'll be very, very good at, right? There's something you may not be good at, and you shouldn't be. You can't be a master of all trades, right? You have to identify what are the gaps? Where do you need for example, I think it was your group that we were talking to, right? The education solution. You have brilliant idea, brilliant job in creating a solution. Right now it's in English. You have to go for multiple languages. And I was asking them about it, and I loved their answer, which was, we don't need to create it. There are others who are. We can go and collaborate with them.
Absolutely.
You don't have to invent the wheel or reinvent the wheel every single time, especially not in areas that may not be a core strength. Use your time, use your energy, use your money to focus on the areas which are your strength, right? And for the rest, partnerships, collaboration partnerships, whatever, but absolutely.
Very well said. Thank you.
In fact, I'll also add a little bit here. Essentially, what we are looking at is the strength of the idea itself and what is the best way of implementing it in the shortest possible time. And although you would have had several sessions and discussions over the last several weeks, but I'll just point out 2 or 3 examples, and they will tell you that what is the kind of collaboration that you should be looking for. Uber is the largest taxi company in the world. It owns not a single vehicle. Dropbox is one of the biggest storage solutions. It runs on Amazon servers.
Yep.
It doesn't have a single server farm of its own. So that should give you an idea of what is the core strength of what you are proposing to do, and what's the most cost-effective and quickest way of getting it done. If somebody else can do a part of it better, collaborate. Otherwise, do it yourself.
Okay. Any other questions? Parna, can we have mic?
I'm Rohini from 4S Learning. We are planning on taking skilling and literacy to the rural areas. What are the areas and how can we look for help from MyGov and from Intel?
As far as the skilling activities are concerned, so the areas on which the initial emphasis is being given are identified by the newly created Ministry of Skill Development. So what I would suggest is that you do visit their website. You must have already done so. And what we can also do is that once you've identified some of those subjects, because it's a vast array of subjects that is covered there. So once you've identified the areas particularly in which you are interested in working, then we can put you through to the correct people in the ministry and they'll be able to guide you better. So what we will do is essentially to perform a routing function.
We're looking more at help in terms of certification, recognitions.
Exactly. So, when it comes to those particular subjects, there would be those skill development councils which are being set up, for instance. So, some of the existing trade bodies could be used for that purpose, or maybe a new council might be set up for that. That will depend from subject to subject. So, at that point of time, once you've identified which area you particularly want to work for, we can put you through to the correct people who will be able to give you the right technical advice.
And from an Intel perspective, I think the way we will stay involved is one, through, of course, through technology know-how sharing, right? We now, in fact, it kicked off as part of this entire thinking to bring innovation to India. We now have a Makers Lab in Bangalore, where all of you get direct access. You don't have to go through a selection process, the top 20. So anyone who needs to apply, just let us know. So you get full access there to technology, to our mentors, and you're able to work there. One is that, which can help you in finalizing the Salute product development. The second part of it is the matchmaking, right? We work with all OEMs across the spectrum, from the MNCs to the local guys, across PC, devices, IoT, all segments. So helping you or matchmaking you, or at least introducing you to that ecosystem, so that you can figure out if you want to go down that path of working with some of these bigger guys. That's another option that is available to you. Specific to education, as Rohini, you know, we also have a very large education program, right, reaching pretty much all states today. And once the solutions are ready, and this applies to all of those who are working on education solution, we'll be absolutely happy to again show that solution to the work we do in education is not commercial, so we don't go and sell anything there, but we are happy to introduce partners to that ecosystem, so that you can go and start the discussions, especially those of you who are working on solutions for rural India. The kind of solutions I've seen this morning, I think, will help a lot.
I think we have one more, and we also have some questions coming to us from our Twitter feeds, so I'll take those after this.
Hi, I'm Karan. We're from Team Udhar, and we're a fintech startup. So we're into lending and whatnot. So my question to you is related to jobs, which you briefly mentioned about Prime Minister's vision and about creating jobs. So what are a few things, this is a question to all of you. So what are the few things that the government is facing challenges and actually does not have a solution to? Specifically, for example, skill development, like there are things going on and whatnot, but then with automation, machine learning, it's going to be fewer and fewer jobs which people actually can do. So what are a few things that the government is actually really struggling with? Thank you.
Should I?
Yeah, absolutely. That is such an entrepreneur question. What's your problem? Tell me.
It makes me feel like I'm again sitting for that UPSC interview. The best answer I could probably give you is that we don't know. And the reason I give you that answer is that, see, as far as the government is concerned, from the government's side or government's perspective, we already have programs, dealing with almost any aspect of your life. From before a child is born, the prenatal care to schemes for people who've died and assistance to their families. So there's a whole gamut of those things which are already available. But the gaps are felt by the citizens. So it's actually for you to tell us that this is a gap area, this is a pain area, and this is what we need to do about it. So if you can just identify that pain area, you'll make Debjani unhappy, because she doesn't like only ideas. So which is why you are here today. So all 1,900 plus of you who participated in this program have identified a pain area and are proposing a solution as well. So that's what we are trying to do here, that not just the ideas, not just the thoughts, but also a likely product, a likely service which can solve that problem as well. That's the best I can do.
You want to add something?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, because while he was talking about, I knew my turn is going to come, so I was thinking of an answer. But the interesting point is this. I think if you actually talk to somebody saying, what is the problem that you have which I want can solve, he doesn't have any problem. Okay. But if you ask a person, I have the following solution. Can it actually solve some of your problem? Then you actually start getting into the thinking. Now, the problems are always, at some point in time, there is a problem. At some point in time, that is not the problem if you never thought of it. Right? I mean, if you go back 10 years back, nobody would have thought of that your bandwidth will become a problem.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, will you be able to do those many railway reservations which you need to do, or those many income tax returns that you need to do? Nobody thought of that because the things were differently done. Today, when we actually look at this, now we see, yes, we can do it that way, but now there is a new problem that is coming up. So how do we solve that? So for example, this year you must have known, since you were actually doing quite a lot with Aadhaar authentication and all that, and believe me, I have read this. So, the reason why Aadhaar, and actually it's a wonderful information base that is created. Why? Because number of reasons. Number one, it is largely accurate. You look at any other database, whether it's an election database, whether it's a PAN card database, whether it's a Janman Mrityu database, I mean, any other database that you look at, it is either incomplete, covering to a smaller set, or it is full of problems or errors, right? So you can't rely on this data for any other functionality other than the functionality that it is using for. Aadhaar is actually a very interesting database because it actually allows you to do an online connection, online services. Now you're rightly doing that. Suddenly that became part and parcel of today's, income tax returns. Because I don't have to now take a printout, sign and send, and then wait for email. If the email doesn't come, then send again and this and that. I don't need to do that. I can do my verification and authentication of my return right there. Now, it was actually possible earlier as well, using digital signatures, using tokens, dongles and all that. But how inconvenient it was, right? Not everybody had it. Okay. So at any point in time, there is always a problem and there is always a thought out solution. May be working, may not be workable solution, but there is a solution which people will actually have in mind. Okay. So the right answer to your question is for you to come up and say, this is what I have thought, and this is why actually all of us are here innovating. This is the real reason of innovation. This is the thing that I believe and I think we can do. Where will it fit in your scheme of things? And then this other guy will say, oh, you have this wonderful solution? Yes, it will fit in the following thing. Can you actually do it in a small way? That's the way the solutions and the solutions are built, integrated, and they just keep moving. There's no ultimate optimal solution.
Yeah. I won't even dare to attempt answering what is the government's problem. So not going there. But I'll tell you what the IT industry's problem is, right? India, despite everything, all the good stuff that has happened, you look at total technology adoption. When I say total computing adoption, when you add up the PCs, even add up servers, Professor Muna's interest area, add up the phones as smartphones and tablets. The total computing penetration is still less than 20% of the population, right? That is our biggest problem. And to date, no one has figured out how to crack that. You can give technology for free and it still doesn't get used. It's a relevance problem. It's not a cost problem. There's both, of course. Of course, technology has to be affordable. That's a given. But people have done pilots and tested out where they've actually given technology for free. And they've gone back and still found it in the wrappers, right? Now, it's a relevance problem. And it's about, and this is why I was so much in love with what you guys were saying this morning, because it's not about, I don't know how many of you know of the Godrej case study, Mittikul, the refrigerator, right? What were they doing? Rural India was not buying refrigerators. Everyone kept crashing prices. Refrigerator sales were not going up. Then finally Godrej or someone goes and does this study and sees that there's no need. People don't cook for 2-3 days at a time in rural India. People like to have fresh food. And they don't like, the only thing they might have the need to store are things like milk, etc., which will get spoiled if kept out. And therefore they need very small spaces. And electricity is not there. So anything that works on electricity is not gonna work, right? So then they came out with Mitti Cool, and it was a reasonable success. That's some people call it jugaad or whatever. I think that's the real innovation, honestly, that India needs, which is grounds up innovation. Understanding what is the real technology need given lifestyles, given values, given incomes, given cultures, right? And then coming up with solutions based on that, which then everyone else can understand and start using to take technology down to the grassroots level. So from an IT industry perspective, that's our biggest problem. So what you guys are doing is ultimately going to help the entire industry.
Okay. Okay, one last question because we are running a little short of time.
Thank you. Hi, this is Jasveer Singh from Team Sense It Out, and we are working in the agriculture domain, technology to the agriculture domain. Related to the rural areas, as ma'am was mentioning, it's a twofold question. First, to Mr. Gaurav Dwivedi, sorry. How is MyGov trying to reach out people from rural areas? Because everyone else can connect to the internet, but if one is not technology savvy, how? And other to all of you, like how is CDAC and Intel trying to solve problems for those places where our solutions, we want to reach out to those places, but because there is this internet connectivity problems, electricity problems, maybe are you doing something in that direction, maybe making some future technologies, small batteries which can last for a long time, something like that?
Okay. Just to answer your first question, see, connectivity is our biggest constraint because being a web-based platform, we can only reach where the internet reaches. So anybody who does not have access to internet cannot participate. That is a given. But we can't really sit and say that we'll wait for internet penetration to increase and then only these people will start participating. So what we thought was that maybe using telephones could be an option, because if we have 900 million telephones, mobiles in the country, then that means that rural India also has a substantial mobile penetration. It's over 70% if I remember correctly anyway. So we did a little experiment last month, and that was about allowing people to phone in their comments to MyGov. We started with the PM's radio address, Man Ki Baat. So typically what happens is that when we run that discussion, then we get about 5,000, 7,000, sometimes more responses from people who put in their comments about what they want the PM to talk about in the next episode. This time round, we provided a toll-free number, and the total number of responses that we got was actually far in excess of the proportion of the rural-urban population. If we say that we have, say, about 40% population in urban areas and about 60% in rural, so which means that we should have got about 15,000 responses coming in from people for this toll-free phone number facility. It was 10 times.
Wow.
From 5,000, we jumped straight to 54,000. Which means probably that it's not only a matter of the internet connectivity itself, but also people's familiarity and ease, with adopting that technology, the technology adoption part that Debjani just mentioned. That even in the cities where you do have internet connectivity, it's maybe the people from the relatively, economically weaker groups or slum areas and all who want to participate. They in fact are the biggest participants in democratic processes. Voter turnout in the slum areas is always much higher than in South Delhi, for instance. So these people want to participate, but we need to find a mechanism to enable that to happen. And with this little experiment that we did last month, I think this went off. We did it in September, so it went off very well. And we're planning to extend it to other MyGov activities as well, to integrate phone-in facility as well as SMS facility so that people can participate. The problems which we face, and this is for you, Karan, the problem that we face here is that, first of all, the routing of these comments into different discussions. At this moment, as we speak, for instance, we've started some activities for the smart city proposals that 98 cities are preparing across the country. And over 30 of these cities are now on MyGov seeking citizen comments. So comments that come in have to be routed to the correct discussion thread. Somebody said calling in from Coimbatore and his comment goes into Warangal, or it doesn't make sense. So that's one part. Another part is that of the language issue. We have 22 constitutionally adopted languages. We have 14 different languages in which different state governments work across the country. Different dialects within the state. I come from Chhattisgarh, for instance, so there is very clear division. The Chhattisgarhi, which is spoken in the central part, and the Sarguja in the north, and the Bastaria in the south, plus other regional dialects, tribal dialects, and all. So these are huge issues. Transcription, analysis, and then the issue of English, for instance. We can throw an analytics software, throw all these comments into the analytics software and tell it to bring out the ideas. But what if I start writing my Hindi in Roman script, like we send jokes to each other on WhatsApp? So the software gets totally confused. What do you do with it? You have to actually create a separate English dictionary for that. And I'm sure this pretty much the same thing happens, to people writing Malayalam jokes in Roman script and sending it on WhatsApp or something like that. So these are a few challenges that we are facing, and we are trying to find out creative ways of getting around them. But to come back to your original question, we don't want anybody to be left out of this consultative process. And working with you and the entire community which is watching this webcast at this moment, we'll find a way.
I think some interesting technologies that you should actually be aware of. I had been a professor in IIT Kanpur. Just outside the IIT Kanpur gate, there used to be a very small shanty shop where people would actually come and charge their batteries. Okay, and very small batteries. And this guy would also do a little bit of TV repair. So one day I asked him, why, how come you have that business? So he said, it's a very interesting thing. He said, in UP villages, in UP towns itself, first of all, you never had more than 4 or 5 hours of electricity, right? In UP villages, it was more like 4 or 5 hours in a week.
Yeah.
Okay. With that kind of a thing, you can't actually ask a rural person, a farmer, to say you will not enjoy the TV. So how does he enjoy the TV? So that place, they were actually making TVs, black and white TVs, cheaper, which will run off battery. Okay. And the battery will drain out every 2 or 3 days. They will have nowhere means to actually charge them. They'll bring the battery right there. It'll get charged. And he would be given the next battery. You just have to go and plug it into the TV. The TV will be functional. So people actually will have innovative solutions to their problems. If power is a problem, battery is the solution. If battery is a problem, and I'll give you one more example of battery being a problem. Right here, there is a unit of Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology called STP. Okay. Now, this Science and Technology Park, actually there are a large number of startups who actually work for him. Okay, so they actually sponsor some of these small things. One of this company actually designed a supercapacitor base charging station. So what you need to do is you take out your battery from your car and install that supercapacitor. Now, what is supercapacitor? It's just like a regular capacitor. It gets charged with a very small resistance and discharges through the car resistance. So therefore, it actually provides effectively the energy storage. Okay. Very small size, can be charged very quickly, can be put right there. And a similar technology is, for example, also developed by CMET. Okay. And CMET has actually done exactly similar kind of a thing, a small supercapacitor. You can actually shape it in a battery form, store it or put it into a mobile phone. Very quick charge, just put it into this power supply, 5 minutes to get charged and gives you a discharge for about a day. Now, these are the kind of innovative technologies which will shape up, which will come up. It's not probably ready for production yet, but it will come up because there is a problem of how to charge fast and how to carry your battery, at least till the time when power is not available. And of course, when power is available, the things will be there. Solar, right? So there are a number of solutions which are available, right? And there are a number of challenges which are available. So both of these things actually, when they meet each other, a right solution comes out.
I think from an Intel perspective, for India, my firm belief and approach is we have to have a technology plus approach. We'll keep innovating and creating technology that can make it easy for our partners to innovate. In India, this is what I want to focus on, which is building that ecosystem of entrepreneurship, of entrepreneurs, of makers. I like to call them makers because I think that's what you'll really do. Who can take the technology and partner with us, with each other, with other industry partners, and create solutions that will make technology relevant in this country. That's the problem we're all going after. So for us, it's not just about the internal innovation. That's half of it. The partnership, the ecosystem innovation, and we are extremely committed to that. So, it's not just the challenge, but we've actually kicked off a very extensive pipeline development initiative starting from schools. And a little bit of a personal interest here, but I really want to see girls in this country get more into engineering jobs and start making more. There's no reason why they shouldn't. So one of the big initiatives we've kicked off this year is Tech for Girls, the Tech Challenge for Girls, where we're actually going to school levels and working with girls and building that confidence that they too can make. And it's fun, it's cool, it's the right thing to do, right? So from science fairs to creating that spirit of innovation, that curiosity, just rekindling that curiosity at school level to college to PhD, to working with you all to ultimately deliver products to the market, right? I think that's, frankly, I see it as one of our biggest priorities in India in the next few years.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we're almost out of time. For everybody who's asked us questions on our social feed, we will respond to
Will I pick one
those.
from there?
We can do one. So this one has come specifically for you, that how is e-governance going to get a big push in rural India through digital innovations?
Who's the person who's asked the question? You have a name?
I think it's Ankit.
Ankit. Okay. This is reply to Ankit's question. How will e-governance get a fillip from the Digital India initiatives? If you look at Digital India, it's, I think, one of the most comprehensive programs that have been designed in recent times, because it tries to cover every aspect of what it takes to roll out e-services. So it's in terms of extension of the network, the internet problem that we have. So, the National Optic Fiber Network and similar projects. Wi-Fi is in campuses and colleges, university areas. Then, in addition to this, the upgrading of the cloud infrastructure that we have, that we've created in the Government of India, and then expanding it much further ahead. In terms of providing access to citizens who do not understand technology, so a very large component of digital literacy is built into the Digital India program. Then the National E-Governance Plan is being sort of recast into eKranti, which seeks to develop a much wider range of electronic services than currently exist today. And each of these has lots of gap areas. So which means that depending on your perspective, depending on, this gentleman who asked this question, Ankit himself, whether he's a hardware guy, whether he's a software guy, whether he's a networking guy, whatever. So you have the space to find out, which particular part you want to work on. So like this lady here who asked the question. So specifically, they've identified education as one of the topics. So for people who have the bent, the attitude, the aptitude to work on the education field, Digital India, will have space for you. Similarly, for the hardware guys, the one who's interested in battery technologies, the one who's interested in internet access, and so on and so forth, or the ones who are interested in financial access and leveraging Aadhaar. So within this group itself, we've seen people working on each of these. The hardware, the infrastructure, the services, the connectivity, the link up, all of those things. So Digital India has space for everything. But again, in terms of the vision itself, it's been made into a fairly comprehensive vision. But that vision will come together not as a single picture, but a collage of large number of pictures. And each one of you will have to put in one pixel there for this picture to emerge.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. A special thanks to Professor Vaishali from COEP and her team for supporting us with getting this webcast organized. Thank you, everybody. Please do join us for lunch outside. May we request the top 20 teams to please join us here for a quick photo opportunity, and a warm welcome to Professor Basant, Chairperson of CIIE.